Hey everybody, this is Jester Borris with I Want to Be a GM, joined today by...
Troy the Planescape guy, and do we have something special for you on our first live stream on YouTube
That's
this year?
right, this is Through the Multiverse. You've been with us through the ages. You've gone a trip across the realms, and now we're taking a trip through the multiverse of the different game systems that you can find and play at your local game store. So today's episode is very cool. It is Renegade Game Systems Essence20 system. And Troy, tell them why that has been so fun for us to dive into and why we're doing it first.
It's like being a little kid again.
Saturday
really
morning
is.
cartoons.
Absolutely. I'm older than most of you out there, but all of you, I'm sure, are going to know at least one of these worlds that they've meshed together to make an awesomely fun. I don't think you can say that word loud enough in this game system with all the different possibilities, because we have Transformers, put us like giant robots.
They are
right?
more than meets the eye.
They are. Power Rangers, go Power Rangers.
That's my favorite.
And everything that encompasses. And that's not enough. So there's let's see, Go Joe, G.I. Joe,
Yeah.
and Cobra, those guys fighting. And see, last but not least, because we need some silliness in there, we're going straight to My Little Pony.
Yes.
They're putting those 4 world systems into one massive game. So you can mesh it all together.
Mm-hmm.
You can make a Power Ranger that is a Transformer pony.
Yeah, so there you go. It's just, each of the game systems is meant to stand alone on its own. You can play straight Power Rangers, straight Transformers, straight G.I. Joe, straight My Little Pony, no problems. But the book I've got in front of us is probably my favorite book of the things released for this system. It's the Field Guide to Action and Adventure. And that is interesting. Let me see here. I'll get this switched over. Maybe you see it. So the Field Guide to Action to Adventure tells us how we can take G.I. Joe and integrate it with Transformers. Any of you guys that are fans of the comics, remember there was the Joe's Transformers crossover comic line. It was really interesting. You've got the Decepticons with Cobra, and the Autobots reveal themselves to Joe, and it kind of heightens the tensions a little bit now that we've got new technologies and threats that are involved within that. So we've already seen those world settings cross over. But what happens when G.I. Joe, Troy, unlimited by any sort of international treaty, morals, or different things of that nature, starts to deal with creating crazy monsters? G.I. Joe doesn't do crazy monsters.
No, but Cobra could. They're not restricted by international law, so they'll make any kind of monsters in the lab that they see fit.
Well, this is right, but so when G.I. Joe comes up a crazy monster, they're meant to deal with military tactics, tanks, airplanes, helicarriers.
Right. So yeah, their adversary is typically somebody else. However, monsters on a daily basis are fought by the Power Rangers.
It's a new one every week with those guys.
every week. Every week is a different batch of monsters.
So, some lady on the moon keeps sending them down.
I love her. Time to take over the world.
So the book not only addresses each of the individual systems, themes, and settings, but how you can cross them over in a thoughtful and serious way. That's one of the things I really liked about this, was that they take the game seriously.
They do. And they have a chapter at the beginning of the book that talks about the DMs and his responsibility, and it's very well written, especially directed towards like a new player turn into DM, of how to do things in creating your story and involving the players at a meaningful level for them, for their character design and progression. It's really, really well done.
So for sure, oops, let me hit that button again. Aha! Mr. Producer is not with us today. He's out sick, so I'm doing double duty. I apologize for that. But it's one of the things that's been the most interesting, is that they've got great game master information. They approach the subject as serious as you would any other game, so that you can set the tone for the game that you want. Yes, we're dealing with Power Rangers and My Little Pony, but it doesn't necessarily have to be a goofy cartoon or a campy after-school show. You can be really serious with it, or set the tone that you want, particularly as you begin to cross these elements over. Like we've got, the direction for crossing these things over is really well done. G.I. Joe begins to find this interesting military force. They infiltrate the putties, and then an operative gets lost on the moon. Well, I was pretty sure that they had a shuttle at some point in the toy line, but if you can't make it to the moon easily, you can always call on the Power Rangers to infiltrate Rita Repulsa's moon base and rescue a Joe operative
Absolutely.
from the clutches of evil. So there's cool things like that. You're just like, that's actually a good story. That's something you can play, and it makes sense within the context of starting to mix these together. You know,
So
obviously.
So with the Essence20, let's hit some of the bigger stuff on the Essence20.
Sure. Well, so like we mentioned, it was Renegade Game Studios is the publisher, and that was announced around 2021. So the minimum materials required to play here, I'll show you this. So the core rulebook for your chosen system. This, of course, is the Transformers. Wait, Transformers not good enough? How about some Decepticons? But we can go ahead and dive straight on into G.I. Joe instead. So all you need, if you only want to run one of these games straight up, is that book. It includes all your player and game master information, rules information, character creation, and a good selection of bad guys and game mastering layout. You can go ahead, and they've got modules available, and they include, open this on up for the boys and girls out there, really cool game master screens for some of these. So there's also some really neat accessories that go along with some of this stuff that's out there. Look at that.
Roll initiative. I'm sorry.
So
Habit.
for sure. Troy's over here trying to kill some players already.
Characters.
Well, you know. But there's a lot of really neat accessories that go along with it. So the Game Master screens, dice bags. My Little Pony includes little meeples instead of like full-on plastic figures, because that's, of course, targeted for children. And so smaller pieces and things, they avoided that so that you can kind of have the younger audience. As professional game master organization, we do tend to run a lot of games for kids. We were working with our local libraries and game stores. And so that was a cool consideration to see that they've got miniatures that are age appropriate, that you don't have to worry about somebody getting hurt on.
So when I was talking with granddaughter about this the other day,
oh yeah,
I was showing her the books, and you could do this. And she used to like My Little Pony, but when I was telling her about the game, no, she wanted to be a Transformer.
Because robots are cool.
Because robots are cool.
So, as Troy was alluding to earlier, though, here's how we do this, right? I'm going to be a Transformer, disguised as a pony. That is also a Power Ranger, hanging out in the G.I. Joe stables, probably being ridden by some other G.I. Joe that's a cowboy, because they did that. But the way they treat a lot of this is very straightforward. You've got a lot of features to the game system that you're going to be familiar with. So at its core, Essence20 is a D20 system. So you roll a D20, add a modifier versus a challenge level, and that's how you resolve combat or skill checks, things of that nature.
But those of you that are doing things online with the D20 system online, yes, it is compatible, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. I've marked a few things just to, yes, it's compatible, but they do have a couple stipulations with the D20 online.
You mean Roll20?
Roll20.
Yeah, so there. And that is something to note for all the online game masters. If you are using a platform like Roll20, the physical books can also be purchased straight from Renegade's website as PDF copies, but those are considered separate products from when you would purchase that through the Roll20 platform. So while I like these books, they are, in fact, super nice on the inside. We'll show these off a little bit more. Full color, lots of great art. If you plan to play on a platform like Roll20, purchase that product through that platform to make sure you've got access to it like you need to.
Right. That's one of the stipulations.
Yeah. But as we're talking about, D20 plus a modifier and that's how you resolve your combats, your challenges, and things of that nature. We do have different stats than what we'd see in a regular D20 system. We've actually only got 4.
We just slow you down right there, shooter.
All right, I'm moving fast. It's fun. It
is a lot of things. So the 4 different ones all combined together using their 20-sided dice rules. All the characters that you generate have the same 4 stats and some minor variations within. Like Power Rangers, a little bit different than G.I. Joe. However, you have the same stats.
Yeah, here.
And the character sheets are very similar from one to the other. The character creation follows a three-pronged approach based on the character's origin, their character's role, and influence. Character abilities and skills are based on the 4 S's: strength, speed, smarts, and social.
Yeah, and then under those would be what you might see as ability scores in Dungeons and Dragons. Here
Right.
they're termed as essences, and those also have different skills associated with them. Tell us a little bit about some of those skills.
The character backgrounds,
Yeah.
character's flaws, and story point system lend themselves to a cinematic and cooperative role-playing experience that is a great fit for upcoming games.
Mm-hmm.
So that they look at the big picture when they're making the system, which I really enjoy. That kind of work going into something means it's going to work well. And everything that I've seen, although it is silliness, and I love silliness, I mean, it's a game, right? You got to have some in there. So what I have in my grubby little paws right now is a Power Ranger character sheet.
Mm-hmm.
And we have strength, speed, smarts, and social.
Yep. Same thing here on the Joe side.
And we have a Joe side. Looks a little different. However, strength, speed, smarts, and social. And underneath each one of those starts their skills that determines the dice that you actually roll, and your bonuses and different modifiers for those different skills under athletics, brawn, intimidation, alertness, culture, science, all these different skills that we're used to seeing in other game systems as well have been carried forward in one manner or another, so that G.I. Joes and Power Rangers can either fight each other or cooperate to win the day. So who's the bad guy? I'm thinking Cobra's the bad guy in all of this.
That's the one. Obviously, when you start to mix them, it's got to be Cobra and Megatron, the Decepticons coming together.
Decepticons fighting Power Rangers. Well, Decepticons fighting My Little Ponies.
So this is the one. It does
this could
get...
turn into a drinking game.
Oh my gosh! Every time you laugh, take a shot. You'll be on the floor in about 10 seconds.
This is a serious game. Take a shot. Yeah.
So each of the sheets here has slightly different skills associated with these things. So we'll take a look here at smarts. So I've got alertness, culture, science, survival, and technology. If I look over here at the Joe side.
Joe, under smarts.
Yep.
I have alertness, culture, science, survival, and technology.
So they're exactly the same, actually.
What?
So,
yep.
So the My Little Pony and the G.I. Joe stuff does cross over really well. Like Dungeons and Dragons and many of the other modern sort of D20 based systems, you have a 20 level character. And so the way that this works is pretty straightforward. You can go and be a level 3 G.I. Joe Commando, and then you take levels in your Power Ranger class. So now you're, don't laugh too hard, a Pink Ranger. Pink Rangers are range specialists. So now I'm a G.I. Joe Commando who's a sniper, and a Pink Ranger who's also a sniper, which means all of my sniper perks will benefit each other. I've got a lot of synergy into that. My specializations and things like that start to roll together. And so not only do you build an interesting crossover character, but you also scale up in power quite well. It can be really neat. And yes, sir.
I have a question.
Uh-oh.
What would my Zord look like?
Well, as a Power Ranger, you'll have a Zord, but say you're a Cybertonian. We're an Autobot. We're rolling out. I'm a Porsche. Do you call your own Zord? Yes, you can. But, more interestingly, through the Morphing Grid, there is some information in the crossover book about becoming empowered by the Morphing Grid, and you become your own Zord. Yeah. So, which I think raises some interesting questions when we start talking about forming the Megazord. Because they were like, we got Mastodon, Sabretooth Tiger, the Tyrannosaurus Rex, and Bill.
It's a Mega Man.
Yeah, it's like, Bill, you're the left leg. I need you to get with it.
Oh my God, I want to play
it. In that regard, Transformers can add some interesting elements to the crossover, particularly when you're a Transformer that's a Power Ranger, or you start getting upgraded and outfitted by G.I. Joe for a big conflict between Cobra and Decepticons.
Man, I tell you, if somebody puts a game together and starts making a campaign out of this, you have got to team up Cobra and the Decepticons.
Well, I will tease this a little bit. We'll talk a little bit more about this, guys, but check this out. This was a module, maybe a little tricky. We put it in something, but it's Worlds Collide, Battle for the Multiverse. This is the PDF version, $12 right off the Renegade website. And this, of course, mixes G.I. Joes, Transformers, and Power Rangers. It is a really neat full color. Unless, of course, you want to print it in black and white. I guess that's kind of the thing there. But everybody, there's a big thing going on. Shenanigans have happened, and the heroes have to rise to stop it. So we'll take a look at that. But at its core, because it is all the same game system, it's highly malleable, very mixable. You can mix just G.I. Joe and Transformers and forget Power Rangers. You could ignore all of it. You could play straight up character and mix them that way. There's a lot of possibility, which is what really piqued our interest in this game system. It's not something that you see a lot of very much anymore. Pathfinder, I think, is one of the ones that has great character flexibility. You've got way too many options within Pathfinder expansion books, Pathfinder 2nd edition, but you end up with a character that's unique from every other character at the table. And that's one of the features, I think, of this game system, is you can make it a G.I. Joe Commando, absolutely. And I'll make a G.I. Joe Commando, but they're not the same character at all.
Not even close. Not even close. So what about some of the world settings? Obviously, Earth's going to be involved, and you mentioned Cybertonium,
right? So
and Equestria. Now, some people may not know Equestria is the home. Is it a planet for My Little Pony?
I think it's.
Is it just a plane of existence within my realm of imagination?
I'm not that versed in My Little Pony, but I would assume it's its own planet in some of its own setting. And what's interesting about Equestria is, of course, you have magic. But I'll go ahead and mention this here since we're mentioning magic. So Equestria has magic. The Power Rangers have the morphing grid, which is a bit of it's not so it deals with like life force, and some of these other mysticism sort of elements are around it, not exactly about it, but so it's not exactly just, hey, you've got superpowers, but it is superpowers. And then when you deal with the Transformers and the Allspark and some of the things that go around that and the way they understand how it operates and empowers them and brings them to life, or other technology, there's definitely these mystical elements that can start to mix. And I think that's the thing here, the battle for the multiverse. You start tearing at the fabric of time and space and reality, and you start to get things that you're like, well, why is the Red Ranger riding a My Little Pony? Because they happen to be fighting Cobra for some reason, things like that. But so those elements are neat. They're all there, and they can kind of cross from different perspectives. And that's the other thing. You get a neat mix of the perspectives from the games. But I kind of forgot your original question there, Troy.
Well, it's like the different world settings.
Okay, yes.
So Earth, obviously, we're going to have.
Now, I've got a couple things here if you want. So Power Rangers has even managed to go through time. So we've got the past as far back as medieval settings with Power Rangers. Wild West was.
Whoa! Power Rangers in the Wild West and back in the medieval times.
Yep, fighting dragons and weird stuff. From.
I really want to play this game now.
Now listen, you got to remember that Rita Repulsa, the evil witch on the moon.
Yeah.
When we see her in the original Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, has been trapped in a dumpster on the moon for 10,000 years.
Okay, yeah, true.
So 10,000 years ago, somebody had to put her in there.
She completely missed the Middle Ages then.
Yes.
She missed dragons and knights in armor.
But doesn't mean that she couldn't go back and fight woolly mammoths and other weird stuff. Oh. So there's some crazy things to do. Or, as we see in a lot of sci-fi, bad guys will attempt to manipulate time to their advantage. So
of course we do. Of course they do.
So we've got not only different Earth settings, but different time periods available. When it comes to Transformers, their home planet of Cybertron can be a feature. Of course, there was a great war, the two philosophies, the Decepticons and the Autobots. And that breaks down. It's a large-scale war that sort of encompasses that planet. And then there's, I forget the guy's name offhand right now, but the guy that eats planets, he's eaten Cybertron like 4 times in different comic storylines.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the Transformers movies, Rise of the Beast, where he shows up to eat Earth. But it's a we can do Cybertron. The War for Cybertron I think would be a neat backdrop. But you typically see Transformers in modern Earth, and that's why they're hiding in plain sight as vehicles and different things of that nature. Right. G.I. Joe, of course, is modern era, but they talk about things maybe as far back as Vietnam and Korea.
Yeah.
And so all the way to modern with their crazy, almost Marvel-esque, shield style helicarriers and
right.
and laser equipment and vehicles of that nature. We've all seen the toy commercials. We've all wanted that giant helicarrier.
And all of those fantastic weapons never kill anybody. And I was looking at one of these sheets here about the G.I. Joe, and it talked about that their weapons, even the ones that are designed to kill, can stun a person, and how hard they stun a person is actually figured in the mechanics of the game. So you actually stun them to unconsciousness, which they do all the time.
Yeah.
So instead of just outright killing people, they're giving them traumatic brain injuries left and right, which I don't know which is better.
Oh man.
Somebody made a note about the thematic. I'm probably not saying that right.
No, that's right. So the different thematic elements that are involved in these things. So definitely conflict is central to all of these. There's always a struggle. Even in Equestria, it can be something as simple as, shenanigans at a pie baking contest to the dark Pegasus slumbering in the mountain, calling forth an ancient dark magic or something, appropriate to the theme. Some of those are going to be a little more lighthearted. Some of those were going to be a little bit heavier in intrigue. Particularly if you're G.I. Joe, you've got the option for espionage. Snake Eyes, of course, a great example. He is an infiltrator, spy, assassin, a ninja.
Ninja!
So, and it's not impossible to have those sorts of things with Power Rangers. The game system is designed in its rules to have a more cinematic style of storytelling. So your heroes get to be heroic despite, facing impossible odds. That's one of the things that is a lot of fun about it where we do so. But each of those elements will vary a little bit when you've got when you're playing the game straight up. So obviously a straight Transformers game is going to be a lot different from a straight My Little Pony game.
True.
And even when you start to mix things, depending on how you mix them, to what level you mix them, we've got Joes in the jungle. They're tracking something down, and suddenly the new Cobra weapon transforms and stands up. The first time you see a Transformer, something like that from the perspective of those Joes where this is new, I'm not ready to deal with this, that can come across the table, right? You get these interesting elements of like fear or anxiety, some tension that gets drawn into the table. You're going to see that across all of these, particularly when some of the machinations of Rita Repulsa, Lord Zed, and Ivan Ooze as they're capturing Power Rangers. Rita is responsible for the Green Ranger, Tommy, which became the White Ranger, huge fan favorites. But there was 5 episodes in the original series where the Green Ranger just laid waste to the Power Ranger team. They had no way to stop it. It was something they weren't prepared for. And it really was probably some of the better storytelling in the whole show because it dealt with the Rangers overcoming this problem and not so much the sort of goofy stuff, fish head monster or pizza man monster, whatever they were trying to fight all the time.
I do want to take a minute. I want to give a disclaimer out here. It's one of the things we talk about when we go out to different places and talk with DMs, especially when a DM mentions something about how the players are running away with his game and nothing that he puts in front of them is able to defeat them. And we have to say, well, it's your fault. If they're defeating all your monsters and situations with stuff that you gave them, it's your fault. So in D&D alone, be careful what you give them as far as magic or spells or any kind of you got a +1 can opener. They're going to find a way to use it in a way that you weren't prepared. This game system with the crossover potential of technology into magic into utter mayhem, as a game master, I would caution you to thoroughly plan through your story and make sure that whatever they're going to come across, you have ways that will prevent them from using it against your future storylines. Because if you give a GI Joe a portable nuclear weapon, they're going to find the time that you weren't planning for it to use it. If you give the Power Rangers what's the watch thing called that they had?
Their voice communicator and transformer.
Yeah, if that winds up in the My Little Pony universe,
well,
they're gonna use it
for sure.
So be careful of the items that you let go from one world setting to another, because players will find a way to use it to screw up your game in the future. Just saying. Oh, magic versus technology.
Well, I will talk. I'll just review a little bit real quick some of the things that we've been into. So, again, thematic elements, magic and technology that we'll get into a little deeper will change depending on if you're running a straight game or how you mix the games together and what elements you decide to cross with. And to Troy's point, just be careful about that. Some of the things that you're going to find in Power Rangers, for example, will just decimate Transformers. Even a normal Zord is taller than a Transformer, and then the Megazord is 4 times as tall as a Transformer.
Right.
So, how do you have a Transformer fight the Megazord one-on-one? It becomes a bit trickier. There's some guidance on how to do that, make it make sense, have it remain fun, but you can get into some pickles there when you start to cross them. But if you're running a straight game, there's not a whole lot to worry about. Where is I got G.I. Joe around here somewhere. Troy's got it. So, as you break into this, I'll show off some of the book too. All the guidance, the different things that you're going to find in each of the books, again, treats the material with respect, with some seriousness, and will give you the guidance necessary to keep your game balanced. So with G.I. Joe going through eras, an M1 or an M14 rifle that may have still been in circulation in the Vietnam era is definitely different from the future tech laser rifle that you may get into with more modern G.I. Joe or slightly ahead of future G.I. Joe. The guidance is there to help you keep that together and keep the game themed appropriately, because we know it's all campy, we know it's sort of goofy, but you can still break the suspension of disbelief if you let it go too far. So you'll find those themes will vary by straight game to straight game. And the other thing is, again, quick review here, they all use the same stats, so there's a lot of crossover. Crossing is very easy. There is some guidance on how to cross your characters, so check out the multi-class or multiversal characters in the field guide action and adventure. Talking a little bit here, so we'll bring it on back, Troy.
Magic versus technology.
Yeah. So this is where definitely you're going to have one highlighted more than the other across the spectrum. So technology, Transformers, they are living machines.
Yeah.
If you don't get more than that.
They're from Mechanus?
No, they're not the modern. But they might hang out. Yeah, they might hang out and have fun. So there we go, Transformers and Planescape.
Wow. Yeah, part of my mind just broke. Okay. So,
to the other extreme, however, is My Little Pony. It's a magical world of ponies, unicorns, and special powers. In the middle there, probably towards the technology side, is going to lean G.I. Joe. And a little bit towards the mystical or magical side will be Power Rangers. And the way that they approach their abilities and how they become empowered, and the actual morphing dynamic. So, when you take it to putting both extremes together, though, you may end up with some interesting effects. So now I've got a Transformer with special armor plating, thanks to G.I. Joe, that's also magically enhanced against fire or laser weapons or what have you, the particular damage types, if you will. Can make for some kind of fun combos. But it also means that if you haven't taken your G.I. Joe character to Equestria to learn pony magic, then there's probably a good chance that you're just going to be really good with your vehicles and your rifles. I broke Troy. what is it, Rapidash and Applejack and stuff like that. I don't I don't think they're gonna be like, okay, Mr. Sniper, once you break that rifle down, we'll show you how the power of friendship works. Like, oh, Snake Eyes, you don't say much, do you?
I'm sorry. One of the last things I got to do with granddaughter, I used to read her a lot of books.
Yeah.
And one was a comic book. It was My Little Pony comic books, and they were fighting zombies.
Yeah.
So, and it was quite perilous. I mean, it was a very interesting everything they had going on. They were fighting zombies, and they were losing the big battle. And of course, that's how the comic book ended. By the next issue, right?
Well, yeah, always.
I could never find the next issue. So I never knew what happened. I just had to assume, that Batman saved the day and everything's okay.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to kill off all of the My Little Ponies. But yeah. So there's a lot of craziness that goes on in the My Little Pony world. But
it is pretty fun. Some of the things that I'll mention here, they've got a lot of free downloads. So depending on which of these world settings you are interested in running, there's additional packs. I don't know if you've got it over with you there, Troy, but for example, G.I. Joe, they've got pre-gen characters. You want the character sheet for Snake Eyes? You got it. You want the character sheet for Scorch? You got it. You want the character sheet for Starscream? It's in there.
I didn't print those. But yeah, very cool.
So this one in particular here for My Little Pony is a series of essentially bullet points to help you work your way through a campaign. This one here, Nightmare Rising. This campaign sketch is designed to offer the Game Master a collection of story seeds that connect into a series of linked adventures. The Game Master will have to expand a lot of detail here, so this is designed to offer inspiration for the Game Master to create a new campaign of their own. And so if you're like me, right, I'm not very familiar with the world of My Little Pony, but we do run games that are themed for children, so I'm going to try to dig into it a little deeper. Things like this are there to help you. And it will be fun to try to figure out the slapstick goofiness. There's a little bit more levity to the My Little Pony universe. So let's take a look or dig a little deeper. So there's magic versus technology. If you guys have any questions, by the way, it's a live stream, so ask us. We got the computer in front of us. We got some things, so we will get there. So I want to talk a little bit about some of the system.
You got us for the character sheet.
I will. That's why we're talking about the game system, Troy. So, grab this Power Ranger.
Go Power Ranger.
So, like we mentioned, we've got the 4 stats that are the same across all of the characters, regardless of the book they come from. On the Power Rangers are going to have certain special boxes, right? They have the ability to morph and to even up the score as the song goes. So on the back pages, they've got some information specific to what?
Well, the third page is their Megazord.
Right. So their Zord, and then the Megazord that the team will form when it comes time to fight the giant monsters.
Yeah.
Rita Repulsa, of course, throws her staff from the moon to the earth.
And they have all that again: the strength, speed, attacks,
so
weapons, blah blah blah.
Even the Megazords and other equipment will have those same things. So
yeah.
But with My Little Pony, my back page is spellcasting, and then if I go even further, you guys want to draw some ponies? Here we go. Look at this.
You got to do your hair.
Well, yeah, but again, the character sheet I think is extra cute. You can't tell me that if you're out there playing with your nieces and nephews, your daughter, what have you, that they aren't going to want to draw their pony.
I know teenage girls that would do that.
Yes. So, well, heck, the mom we talked to yesterday at the library, she would have fun with that. So, now on the Joe side of things, when we get back here, he's a little bit more straightforward. His second sheet is simply just armor and weapons, because that's what makes the Joe, aside from his unique skills, abilities, trainings, and backgrounds. So this is what I was talking about a little bit earlier. When we start to cross these over, you may end up with a page of My Little Pony behind your G.I. Joe if you happen to did learn a few magic spells, or if you're a Power Ranger, you're going to need the Zord page at the very least, so that you can keep track of your equipment, your robot, your Megazord, as you form it with your team. So I'll mention it again. It's a D20 plus a modifier to get versus a challenge score, like a challenge rating or DC, as we've seen it before, and that will determine success or failure. Now it's a little bit different. I've been vague on modifier, and then that's because it changes. So in this system, you get a D20 plus your skills die. So as you go through and you build your character, you'll be able to put points into, let's say, athletics. And so I go from a D2 all the way up to a D12. And that would be the die I roll with my D20 when I make an athletics check to see what my total result is. If you don't have any points in a particular skill, it's a straight D20 roll. So we've got certain things on here. Troy, tell me if this sounds familiar. Edge and snag.
Edge and snag?
Edge and snag. So if I were to tell you to roll a D20 with an edge, what might you do?
Is that an edge weapon?
No. It's similar to D&D 5th edition's advantage and disadvantage.
Oh! We got too many terms flying around here. My brain broke back at My Little Pony, so...
Yeah, you were thinking about how you could...
Don't do it again! I just recovered.
But you don't want to draw a pony, Troy?
I don't want to draw... Maybe later.
Maybe later.
We'll turn into a power sword.
So... So you again, with an edge, like advantage, roll 2 d20s,
Yes.
take the higher result, then add your skill roll to it.
Yeah.
And then if you hit a snag, you'll roll 2 d20s and take the lower.
Yeah, that is one of the many things from 5th edition I do like. That actually, didn't they come out in 3rd?
No, that's a 5th edition thing. It may have been a 4th. I didn't play much of 4th. I don't remember much, but it's definitely a feature in 5th that I think cleans up a lot of the bonuses and extra math that went into 3rd edition.
I'm too sober right now. I can't keep it straight. So.
You're still lost in Equestria.
Stop it! Stop.
Everything's colored with crayons. Even my G.I. Joe truck has hearts and rainbows on it now.
Get the granddaughter after you. She'll My Little Pony in.
It'll be good. So, totally off track here. I was talking about some of the skill system. There are some cool things. So you can hit.
There are very cool things.
So you can get double edge, right? So if I have a skill that gives gives Troy an advantage, it gives him an edge during a skill check, but he's also got something that triggers an edge during a skill check. What he actually does is shift his die, and so this is another cool skill mechanic. Mm-hmm. So Troy, if you had a D6 for driving, and we're trying to chase down a Cobra operative in Milan, so I do something that it assists you. Instead of that D6, you could roll a D8. And so if you get an edge that's 2 D20s, take the highest instead of a D6 plus a D8. So this is the cooperative aspect that Renegade was talking about when they were telling us about the game system. I've got things that are going to help him. Of course, that helps the team as we complete our mission. And so not only do you get these edges and snags, but you can also shift your dice.
I like how they describe all that too. Like if we're doing something cooperatively,
Mm-hmm.
and they don't have pages that specifically state, if you're doing this and I'm doing this, the outcome is that. The description of it in the book is kind of vague, but it lets you know any kind of assistance from a team member, and then the person running the game, the game master, puts those together and says, yes, what you're doing would help. You're using your computer for GPS to tell them turn left now, turn right now. So that's going to get you a little advantage in trying to catch the bad guy as you run through the cities of Milan. And so they can't possibly write a book that has every contingency in it. The thing would be as massive. So they just kind of describe when you're doing something and I'm doing something that's a cooperation. Now, there's another side of that.
Is when we mess up.
When you get a snag.
Yeah. And that's one of the things too. So I might have skills or abilities that will force a snag on my opponent when they go to attack me in some way. So you can force that disadvantage onto them, or you may suffer one because of, you're dangling upside down over a lava pit.
Yeah.
That might have you might have some problems with the heat and the noxious fumes when you're trying to type on your tiny keypad risk communicator to call for help.
My Little Pony throws sparkles in your face when you're trying to shoot me.
Yeah. Sparkle magic. There you go. Sparkles.
And it's exploding glitter bombs.
And, and again, so shifts don't just happen in one direction; they also go in the other, right? So we're like, all right, Troy, you are a good driver. You've got the D6 on your driving skill. However, it's dark, and because of the gunfire, the Cobra operatives managed to shoot out one of your headlights. So you're working with half your headlights. So instead of the D6, I'll have you roll your driving check at a D4.
Okay.
And so you'll shift the dice up or down, and that's the game master making those calls per the situation. There are examples where you're like, well, I've got a shift of 2 up and then 1 down based on skills, and so they cancel each other out, right? If you would get an edge and a snag, they cancel. Done.
Yeah.
And it keeps it easy to manage. It sounds a little more complicated. There's not many times though that I've seen where you're going to end up with a lot of those conflicting shifts or edge snag scenarios.
Yeah, I don't see it turning into a debate with rules lawyers saying, well, you have this snag and this snag and this snag. Well, my character has this plus, this plus, this plus. So, yeah.
Yes. There's nowhere in the DMG or player's handbook that says I have to act any differently when I have 1 hit point, and then you bonk him, and they're good. But so there we go. Skills. There is one thing that's kind of cool. You can get a critical success or a fumble. So if you get a 1 on the D20 roll, and your skill die does not bring that above the necessary difficulty check number, then you can potentially fumble that roll. And so aside from just failing, there could be some additional effects that happen from there. The guidance for that is in the combat chapters. And I've made a note of that was page... So if you're in the Power Rangers book, it's page 170 and about there in many of the other books. But...
So I can, if I may read.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
How do I crit my rolls?
Yes, this is the other side. So you gotta fumble, but you then could crit. So tell us about crits.
Anytime you make a successful skill test, whether in combat or just performing a skill, if any of your skill dice except the die 2 show the highest number possible for that dice type, the roll is a critical success. The D20 does not count as a skill die, but rolling a die 20 will often mean the skill test is successful, which is the most important part. A critical success in an attack roll will most often result in doubling the attack's effect, but most weapons have an alternate critical effect that may also be chosen.
All right, so and there you go. You can crit, particularly with G.I. Joe and Power Rangers. There's a lot of alternate effects. So instead of just dealing damage, I can stun. I can cause them to be stuck in place. I can cause this or that. But before going on too far, I want to say hello to Soul Grace, who's out there on YouTube with us. So thank you for joining us today, Soul. Let us know if there's anything you wanted to see. I do literally have the stack of books back here. I can open them up for you, and we can take a look at anything. So Troy keeps breaking his brain with the crowns of My Little Pony. But, I mean, there you go. Got them all here.
Got them all there.
And there's actually some more. So, like, some of the things I'm missing are the Cobra or source book and a couple of the other Power Ranger stuff. But
so we've been talking about character sheets.
Well, that was particularly we're dealing with skills. So I want to deal a little bit now. We've talked some about combat and how skill checks work. One of the things that's really interesting about this system is that each of your essences also has a defense.
Yes.
So if I'm trying to push Troy over, we might have a strength contest. But if, like the Riddler, I've got a deadly puzzle that the characters will need to overcome, that might go against their smarts. And then when it comes to infiltrating or passing lies or other espionage, I may have to work against an NPC's social defense. And that was one of the things that I thought was really kind of neat, is that you don't have just one armor class or one number to be hit or challenge against like that. Cyberpunk, which is one of the ones we'll talk about later in the year, has an active defense system. So like D&D and a lot of the other ones is a passive defense. So you have to meet or exceed that number, like in any difficulty check, to be able to affect that character. But it's neat. So you get like 10 plus your essence. So if I have a toughness of 5, there'd be 10 plus 5. any perks that you have, and then any armor. Power Rangers have an additional bonus for when they're in their morph state, because you've got your Power Ranger, you're channeling the grid energy and that sort of stuff. You've got some extra defense there. Let's see.
It's all really straightforward, actually.
It's not too bad to pick up, and that was one of the things that was really interesting. Was that it wasn't convoluted. We have seen some systems that just kind of get into the weeds, and this is not one of them.
Yeah. Yeah, we have seen a few.
Cool. So we got Soul out there. Dude, you are in the right place. Video games, anime, manga, and other games. That's what we're all about here. I'm a big Gundam fan. I like Dragon Ball Z. Troy has been big into Battletech. And of course, Dungeons and Dragons is one of the ones we've been playing for 20 years. And then this is making us a kid again. We got Power Rangers, my favorite. Troy's got Transformers and G.I. Joe. He grew up on those. Secretly, I'm holding out for He-Man. God, bring me some He-Man.
I will attack with My Little Pony. I will ride a My Little Pony with a lance and go fight Skeletor.
100%. Smack Beastman in the face with a hoof.
Oh, absolutely.
But, see, any games you guys have? The Power Rangers Academy. No, but I do have Battle for the Grid, the fighter game. Love that one. It's a Capcom fighter. Big fan of Capcom. When it comes to the role-playing game here for Power Rangers, I do have a Jump Through Time, which was cool because we get some of the different Ranger teams are added. So if you want RPM or Time Rangers, they're going to be included. You also get some of the Quantum spectrum, like Orange Rangers or Purple Rangers, which were not part of the regular spectrum of Ranger. I mean, let's break this one out. We showed off the DM screen for G.I. Joe. I love this one here. There you go. So, I mean,
roll initiative.
And then, of course, on the inside of these are all your rules references and things to keep you on track as a game master, quick and handy.
I always put a sticky note there for the best places to get pizza.
Well, you
just call it real quick. Yeah, I need pizza.
So no problem, but we're gonna keep marching on through this. The one thing that is kind of interesting is, since conflict is central in all of the themes to these games, combat is one of the things that comes up fairly often. A little bit. G.I. Joe is very much combat. Transformers, sometimes when they have to break cover, it's because the Decepticons are doing something and they've got to stop it. Power Rangers are martial arts all day, every day. Fight the putties, fight the weird fish monster. Get in a giant robot and fight the giant fish head monster.
Every week there's a new monster.
So
Power Rangers every week.
You don't tend to have a lot of hit points at first level. You get 3 to 4, and you're like, whoa, hold on. But most damage is 1 to 2.
Right.
And so it's really not as bad as it sounds. One of the things that's kind of interesting is that you don't gain hit points as you level. You have to invest into your toughness, or they call it conditioning. So as you increase your conditioning, you'll find that you get more hit points and that sort of thing. Death, however, is not it's not like Dungeons and Dragons. It's particularly old school Dungeons and Dragons. When you reach 0 HP, you are defeated. And this sticks with the themes that we've seen, right? So I go through and I've defeated the monster. He's at 0 HP. He's no longer able. Yeah, there's in the.
If I somewhere here I was reading about G.I. Joe. When they get to 0, they're unconscious.
Yeah, so
they have a lot of weapons that, even if I missed you and something exploded near you and did not kill you,
yeah,
you may be injured with physical injury, but then I forget where it was at. But it can actually get you to 0 and you're unconscious.
Yeah,
and they have other weapons that are designed only to make somebody unconscious. So again, they're inflicting brain injuries on these poor people.
You take a rubber bullet to the forehead a few times. I mean, they are in Cobra to start with. It reminds me of the henchman from Venture Brothers.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, the Monarch henchman. Yeah, and they're like, it's fun. But
I prefer minions. Where are my minions?
Well, you can shake them and crack their back, and they glow in the dark.
They do. They're so useful for so many different things.
Yeah.
I mean, why wouldn't you want them?
But so it gets themed a little differently. Unconscious, they're defeated when it comes to Power Rangers, or maybe so you can defeat the bad guy. He can deliver his monologue, or like reoccurring high level bad guys that you might necessarily meant to defeat till later on. We see this with the henchman to Rita Goldar. The Power Rangers fight him several times, and when they're a fresh team, he kind of walks all over them. Later, as they get their footing under them and they become more skilled with their weapons and techniques, they're able to defeat him. But
Yeah.
Rita will teleport him back to the castles, or she'll go ahead and enlarge him. And now he's a 40-foot tall monster, and that's time to call in the robots. So zero does not mean death, unconscious, defeated, something along those lines.
I didn't even find anything when I was looking through. It wasn't something that was on my list to look for, but I didn't come across anything about it in the combat.
Yeah.
No.
Now, there you can die in the game system. It's just it's not by rote. It's not, oh, you hit 0, you're dead.
Oh, I got you.
And so there's certain things where you can heal your allies as a Power Ranger. When you hit 0, instead of being defeated, you can be knocked out of your Ranger transformation, unconscious with 1 hit point remaining. So,
when do you transport back and the robot heals you?
You mean so when they call out the giant robot?
No. In Power Rangers, they had a robot with like a hamburger head.
Yeah,
They told them all their mission stuff.
For sure. So if you're defeated, you might be recalled or something of that nature.
Okay.
It happens both ways on either side. With Joe, ideally you've got the Huey standing by and somebody with a big giant rocket launcher to save your butt.
Oh yeah, giant Band-Aid wrap around you.
Yeah,
he's gonna be all right.
So when you hit 0, you do need to receive healing, because from there, if you're left in that state, you could move into death, but you don't die immediately. And so a lot of this, like G.I. Joe, you'll be knocked out. We'd call it defeated in Power Rangers and Transformers. And I didn't look at it specifically in My Little Pony, but I'm sure it's something similar. So they allow a little bit of flexibility there.
I can't imagine a My Little Pony dying.
No.
That'd be like the saddest thing in the world.
Yeah, they're too cute to die.
Absolutely.
So
they're just gonna take a nap.
For sure. Let's see, we've got RuneScape. I have not heard about RuneScape in a long time, Soul. So that's yeah, some RuneScape.
Ooh.
I do play Final Fantasy 14 when I get the time, but we don't have a whole lot of time recently. So
that's plenty of time. We're not doing anything for the next couple hours. Nothing important, but anyway.
Oh yeah, we're just trying to talk about all this. So, the skill set is cool. You've got criticals, you've got some fumbles. You can shift your dice. You can aid your allies, hinder your enemies.
Yeah.
Some of the things that are really cool. Power Rangers in particular have different weapons.
Yeah.
that require a different number of hands.
Yes.
So, okay, I lay my bow down, and then you've got your crazy laser axe, and then I've got my pistol or whatever. So they put this multi-form weapon together, but it takes 10 hands on the weapon at a time to channel the energy into it necessary to fire it.
Yeah.
And so you'll get some goofy stuff like that. But
sounds like it's made by Tinker Gnome.
Kind of. Even the My Little Pony universe, though, has weapons and armor.
They do.
So the ponies that guard the castle use spears and have helmets. And you'll see some equipment, but not a lot of equipment as compared to G.I. Joe, Power Rangers, and Transformers.
Awesome.
So what's our next one, Troy? I've lost my paperwork under these ponies.
We're getting down here. Skill specializations, like driving was a V8. We're talking a little bit about that.
Yeah, because specializations were a little different. So for the example of driving, like we talked about earlier, if you're specialized in land vehicles, right? So we're not just driving, chasing the Cobra guys through Milan. You are a driving specialist. Your whole job is to be awesome in this Jeep.
Let's see.
So what you get is if you have a D8 as your driving skill, and that's your specialization's land vehicle, and you're driving a car or a truck, you get to roll your D8 and every die below it. So you get a D8, a D6, a D4, and a D2. Now you only take the highest skill die, so the highest number that pops up. But if any of those skill dice come up on their max number, you have a chance to critical that roll. So, while my highest die is an 8, I got a 6 on it, but my D4 came up with a 4. So I've got a critical chance because one of the skill die is on their max, and then I take my highest number and add it to my 20. So as a specialist, you can really start to shine, and it that is your role, right? And this again is where we're talking about character customization. Troy's character being different from my character, being different from the next guy's character. Even
it's really
though,
not that complicated either, because a lot of them that we've seen with these different skills,
yeah,
it turns into like writing a PhD thesis.
well, Savage Worlds gets crazy because if you roll and you get the max, your dice explode, which means you get to go to the next step, and you can do that all the way up to you're rolling like a handful of. It's cool, but it's still something I haven't wrapped my head around completely. This was a little more straightforward, I thought.
Yeah, it gets a little. Some of them can get kind of complicated. Yeah.
Let's see.
Yeah. So one of the other things we talked about a little bit ago was Roll20. When do you want to hit on Roll20 again?
Well, so we covered the game system pretty good. So the characters valley.
You did powers and traits, character generation. Well, character generation, we talked briefly the role, origins, and influences.
It varies slightly by book because the Power Rangers will have you go in a different order than G.I. Joe does. Yeah. Because Power Rangers wants you to understand your origins and influences before you take on your role, your Power Ranger role. Where G.I. Joe sort of walks you through your character's life. You've got your influence, your origin, and then your influences, and so on, before you've become recruited into G.I. Joe and you take on your role as a member of Joe. So there will be a little bit of difference in the way that the books will guide you through that process, but it's also freeform enough that you are allowed, and they mention this in their information, to start at any point. So if I know I want to make a Red Ranger, I can backtrack from there. If I don't know what kind of Transformer I want to put together, I might start at my origin and work my way forward. Okay. So the information's there. As long as you end up with all of the bits and pieces, then you simply at the end you'll assign your numbers, because you'll have a certain number of essence points to assign at first level, a couple additional points to skills based on your origins and influences and role, and there it goes. And it's pretty easy to get through that process. It took me about 20 minutes once I was like, oh, you can just do any of them. And if this was your game system, I know game masters that can go through and get you a 5e character in 10 minutes. Yeah. And there's 3 different books and 4 different ways to do it. So once you're down with it, I don't think it'll take very long to put together a solid customizable character that you can jump right into the game and play.
Yeah. So we were talking before we started filming here about a few of the character things, and one of them was character advancement. And you told me that, and that was a very interesting.
It makes a certain sort of sense from what we've seen with current gamers.
Yeah,
we see a lot of milestoning in 5th edition, not a lot of experience points. Different when we talk to 2nd edition D&D or older game system players where XP was a staple. You can't get away with it in like the World of Darkness setting. You have to get your first dot in a power is 1 XP, your next is 3, and so on. You have to get the experience points to make your character more potent. Excuse me. Essence20 is all milestones, but it's not even full levels. You could milestone a quarter level, a half level, or something in that regard based on the story that you're going through. Now, you don't get any additional perks or bonuses on those partial levels, but it's a way that you can show the characters advancing towards something. And that can be a big deal for players.
As a very big deal.
As you're working through, you're like, I want to see my character grow and develop. I want to make it through the story and help my teammate and defeat the bad guys and save the world. But it's nice to know that, I'm going to be able to get to that next level, that next tier. And so milestoning, even partial levels, is a great way to show, yes, your character's moving, you're making your way towards your goals, and we're also saving the world.
Right, gotta save the world. Always. We've talked about some of the mechanics. Edge and snag, we talked about.
Yep.
The die 20s. Character advancement on milestones. And I mentioned character death a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit.
I think we covered everything on our checklist.
For sure. And this one was a little weird to dive into because we've got essentially 4 settings across one set of mechanics. Yeah. Unlike Cyberpunk, where we're dealing with Cyberpunk is the dark future. It's got its one setting with its mechanics. Same thing later on when we talk about Vampire the Masquerade. It's got, that's a little bit more similar to this, where you can be a vampire, werewolf, and so on, but it's a little bit more in line with each other. Transformers to Equestria and My Little Pony are completely opposite. I mean, they're not even on the same board, right? They're so
they're
separate.
not even no, not even closely, not even farther related. No, there's just.
So while they do use the same skill system, it was a little tricky to try to pull all this together and kind of understand what's different about them, where they can mix, and how. I mean, the potential is obvious, and it's going to be a lot of fun. I've in the research for this episode, I read some Reddits, I read some forums. There's a lot of people that are really enjoying the system out there, mixing it in different ways. And like I mentioned, you don't have to play any more than you want. You could only play Transformers or G.I. Joe or Power Rangers.
Yeah, you don't have to mix them.
Yeah.
The rules are set up so that you can mix them however much, to what extent you want, but you don't have to. If you just want to play G.I. Joe or just Transformers or just Power Rangers, absolutely, you can do that all day long too.
Again, very pleasantly surprised at the tone they take, treating the properties with respect, treating you as a game master, as a serious player.
This field guide to action and adventure, I would suggest, if you don't buy it, at least sit in the game store and read it. It has a lot of really good information for game masters in general, not just specifically to their worlds. It's really good way it's written. Yeah, and that was the other thing that I was impressed. We'll talk about when we get there. With Cyberpunk's got some good information. So there's a lot of good game master information that's out there inside these core books. So even if you don't intend to run some of these systems, take a chance to read them when you get a chance, because there's some information that can help improve your game. And then there's opportunities like this to sort of break out. And now, who doesn't want to be in a Megazord, right? Yeah. Drive that thing to work. I bet they won't tell you can't park it there.
Mega Megazord.
You can't park there. I'll park wherever I want. I'll park on top of the building.
I'll show you some of this. I did get the minis set. They've got, like I said, some accessories available, dice bags, these Game Master screens per I guess it's not really per system because it's all Essence20, but per setting.
Yeah.
And some adventures, some free additional content over there at Renegade Game Studios' official website under their downloadable PDFs. You can also find some of their other games. They do have World of Darkness. They've got several board games, a couple of collectible card games. And as long as they keep putting out books of this quality with content to support it, then I'll be a fan. I've really enjoyed getting into Renegade Game Studios stuff. They've been around for a little bit, but I think the Essence20 systems really is the one that caught my attention with this.
Oh, yeah. All right.
So,
Roll20.
Roll20. Let's talk a little bit about, if you're going to take these games, like we mentioned earlier, onto Roll20. I'll mention it again. The books versus their PDF copies versus what you can purchase through a platform like Roll20 are considered as separate products. And so if you're going to purchase this on Roll20, if you're going to play it on Roll20, I mean, buy it on Roll20 so you've got it. Otherwise, if you've got the PDFs and the books, it's not going to do you much good. So give us the info there, Troy.
I got the rules right here.
Yep.
The question is, do you need to purchase the game separately on Roll20 in order to play it on that platform? The game on Roll20 is a separate product from the hardcover or PDF version. To create a game on Roll20 using all the information from the core rulebooks, you will need to purchase a Roll20 version of the game. You will need to purchase the Roll20 version of the game.
Okay.
To use the features such as dynamic lighting on the G.I. Joe map provided in the Roll20 versions, you'll need also to have a subscription to Roll20 for the really cool map.
Right, and so that tends to be the Game Master side of things, guys. So the Game Master tends to need the subscription for the extra features, and as a player, you won't.
So do all the players in Roll20 need to purchase the game and a subscription to Roll20? No.
There we go.
As long as the game creator has a subscription and has purchased... Did you read this already?
No, I've just played on Roll20 a little bit.
So the Roll20 version of the game, any players and or guest GMs will have access to all those features as well. You will be able to share perks with your whole table. Read more about it on the Roll20 Help Center. So I think it's really cool that they've made alliances with a platform of that magnitude with all of this material.
Yeah, Roll20 is popular because it's very straightforward and easy to use. I did like it. It wasn't the game experience that I really enjoy. I prefer the table. I prefer the role play and things that we get into with the map in front of you all the time. I was less theater of the mind and more war gamey. But it's a great platform. It was nice because you can go and purchase the material. You've got the character sheets that'll help you generate your character right there. You can print that character sheet, have it in your hand. When you buy the modules or you've got the adventures, you've got all the maps, you've got all the tokens, everything you need to play. And it doesn't take up shelves and shelves of your studio space. But we kind of like it that way. And so there's a few different ways to use it. We've also been introduced to what was it, Foundry? Yeah, Foundry VTT.
Yeah.
So that's a cool one, but it's a different platform with a different kind of support, and I don't think you're going to find this information over there, or you'll have to input it manually, which will be different. So before we head out, read some of the stuff here in these appendices. It's kind of fun, just to give you a little bit more flavor here. All right, that's the threats. I just saw some stuff here about, there you go. So setting elements. You don't need to be an expert on all things Power Rangers, G.I. Joe, and Transformers to run this event. And this event here, again, is Worlds Collide, Battle for the Multiverse. This is a PDF copy of the module that they've got on the Renegade Game Studios website. So, don't have to be a expert in all of those things. So they give you in the glossary some bullet point tips. All right, so Power Rangers setting elements. Evil space aliens, a conglomeration of intergalactic overlords and evildoers working together to amass ultimate power.
Evildoers?
Oh, yeah. For sure. So Jason Lee Scott, the Mighty Morphin Red Ranger, that team's first leader. So you'll see him here. That's Red Ranger. Red Ranger. Secret identity is Jason Scott there. The Power Rangers. Ordinary citizens chosen by the mysterious morphing grid for the strength of their characters to fight for what's right as superpowered martial artists. I mean, if you didn't know what a Power Ranger was, that's a pretty decent, you know, you kind of get an idea.
It's a simple description.
Over here on the G.I. Joe side, right? G.I. Joe, a daring, highly trained international special mission force with hundreds of the world's elite special mission soldiers. All right, I like G.I. Joe.
Yeah.
There we go. Autobots, Decepticons. Optimus Prime is a Cybertonian in possession of the Matrix of Leadership, an artifact that contains the consciousness of all past primes. Optimus Prime currently holds the title using the power and wisdom it grants to lead the Autobots. So, there we go. So you get a lot of good information in some of this. Even if you don't intend to run these crossover events and things like that, this free and inexpensive material will help you dive a little deeper into the system, figure out where you might want to land. If you're a huge fan, obviously go in that direction. Again, Power Rangers for me, G.I. Joe or Transformers for Troy, and then quickly becoming a crown-colored pony. So, there's just a lot. And I appreciate Renegade's support. I appreciate the way that they approach these products. The books are fantastic. I like to physically have them in your hand. They're heavy bound, full color, inside and out. Let me see. You know, everything is just really nice on them. So, the thing is, if you don't order straight from the website, I'd say check with your local game store. We found these books in all of our local game stores. Do play local and support your local vendors. They're the ones that keep the hobby alive. So, check your local game stores. But on that note, I do believe, Troy, we wrapped it all up here, haven't we?
Yeah, we got to the end of the line.
We are at the end of line. Ooh, maybe we get some Tron. We start mixing cyberspace and pony magic.
Oh, man. They don't have thumbs. How could they do the motorcycle?
I don't know. All I got to say is halt program. They've done some interesting things. We're actually, I'll have to show you when we get off here. They did have a Power Rangers ponies crossover for the My Little Ponies. They were the Pony Rangers. There's all sorts of stuff. But
Yay.
as it is, this has been our overview of the Essence20 system and the different settings that are available. Again, Troy, what are those settings?
What?
The settings.
The settings.
Yes, we got Transformers.
Oh,
Power Ranger. Come on, Troy. Stay with me.
my brain's resetting from the My Little Pony Tron thing. So we have Transformers, we have My Little Pony, Power Rangers, and G.I. Joe. In the Essence20 system, they encompass all those world settings.
Yeah, so the same set of mechanics. As I continue to expand the individual properties, there's the potential that we're going to see new settings added, so that's going to be kind of cool. Easy to pick up, simple mechanics, a lot of fun.
A lot of fun.
So, as we sign out here, I am Jester Borris with I Want to Be a GM. Troy, tell them where they can find us.
Hey, this is Troy, the Planescape guy with I Want to Be a GM. You can find us on our .com, our Facebook, our Discord, and here on YouTube.
I want to say thank you for watching us today. If you found this video helpful, please like, subscribe, and leave a comment. We've got a like goal on this live stream video of 50 likes, so if you find us worthy, we hope that you leave us a thumb up. While you're looking over our YouTube library, take a moment to check out some of our other videos. We've got a couple years of past live streams through the ages, through the realms, and some things that we're doing specifically to help you with your D&D game. You can also find us over on our Discord. That is the big one, guys. Come hang out with us on Discord, and we're sure that you'll find something helpful over there. We've got over 80 game masters that can give you advice, help you with your game, or just help you relax with a good joke and a bad story. So
that's why I go there.
For sure. Until next time, again, Jester Borris and
I'm Troy, the Planescape guy. We will see you next time.
Bye, everybody.